I think the problem is a lot of people take it at face value, you know? They think, oh, he's singing about drugs. He's singing about sex. He must really be into all that stuff.
And he's not?
Well, he's an intelligent man. He knows what he's doing. He clearly loves the genre, and if you know anything about the genre, you realize what he's doing.
But what do you mean?
It's like a really good horror movie, you know? That's kind of tactfully over the top. One that is both parts an homage to the genre and accentuation of it. Look at the movie You're Next, for example.
I don't know. That's kind of a stretch. I think the dude's just in it for the money.
Dude, I strongly disagree. I think he's making a pretty cool statement, and he's being slightly subversive about it. You can't go outright and parody his genre, especially if you love it. You have to employ the same tropes and concepts that are established within it, and you use them to excess, with tact, to kind of bring attention to the genre itself.
I hear what you're saying, but I think you're giving him too much credit. I feel like his shit would be weirder if that were true.
No way, man. It's so easy to just be weird. It's much harder to adhere to a formula and then get weird from within those parameters. You play with people's expectations. You risk being taken at face value, but if you do it well, you'll certainly affect people, even if they don't understand why.
I don't know, man. You think about this shit way too much.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing. I'm just sick of hearing you defend hacks like these.
Dude, how long has it been since you've eaten?
Why does it matter?
Because I know you. I know how pissy you get when you're hungry.
Whatever. I'm fine.
You ran out of food, didn't you?
I don't want to talk about it.
I told you it wasn't gonna last. That healthy shit you eat, that can never fill you up. You need the real thing, man. A nice piece of meat and you'll be back in good shape.
I hate eating that shit.
Too bad. Look at us. We're in the middle of nowhere. You're definitely not gonna get your fancy feast shit out here, so stop being so goddamn picky. There's no way I'm going to sit in a car with you when you're hungry like this.
Well, what do you want me to do about it?
Look, there's a gas station coming up. We need money anyways. I'm sure you can find something to eat there.
Come on, let's just go a little longer.
You want to go back, Joe? Is that what you want? Back to him? We need to stick to the plan. And the plan doesn't involve me slitting your throat because I can't handle your attitude anymore.
Jesus, fine, I'll eat.
Alright, I'm going to get us another car. You get us some money, okay?
Why do I have to?
Because I did it the last 2 times, Joe. Come on, be a part of this, won't you?
Fine.
And Joe, eat something. And this concludes part 1 of The Devil Dines In. Evil. He's evil.
Hello, and welcome to Tuesdays with Gory, a horror movie podcast where we talk about horror movies.
Heidi-ho.
I'm Joseph Blanski.
And I am Justin Fink.
And we're happy to be here.
Very happy to be here.
Happy Horror Movie Month. Happy Halloween.
Joe, you watch any good movies this week?
Yes, I watched not that many, only a little bit.
Uh-huh.
I watched Halloween 2 immediately after we did our last podcast.
Really?
Which was pretty disappointing.
Yes, not a good movie.
I watched Never Sleep Again, the Nightmare on Elm Street documentary.
Yes, very entertaining.
Or at least some of it. It's really long.
Uh-huh. But you made it through when they talk about Nightmare on Elm Street 2. And that is by far the best part.
That and when they talk about the television show, Freddy's Nightmares.
Oh, yeah.
That was very enlightening. I need to go back and finish it.
Uh-huh.
That was under your recommendation, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then also we watched Unfriended together.
That is correct. Yeah, we went over to our buddy Austin's apartment and watched that. What did you think of that movie?
After being on a lot of social media and editing the podcast and being in front of a computer screen, it was even more claustrophobic. And I wanted to not like the movie, but in the end, I guess I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it too. I thought they did a good job with what they were working with.
Yeah, what they were working with.
Yeah.
It was convincing, at least.
I mean, it was just one POV the whole movie. I can't think of any other movie that's done that.
It was so silly.
Yeah,
I wish, watching it on a television. I don't know if it would have been better on a laptop or not, which was the entire POV if you're not familiar with this movie.
I think it would have been best, like laying in bed with a laptop on your chest. I watched this movie just came out yesterday called Final Girls.
Final Girls?
Yeah, it's got a limited release right now. It's a great movie. It's especially great if you love horror movies. I'll give you a plot breakdown. It's awesome.
Please.
It's about this girl, and her mother passed away. She didn't pass away. She died in a car crash 3 years before. And her mother starred in this horror film called like Camp Blood or something like that in the 80s. And it was like clearly supposed to be Friday the 13th, like very similar killer and setup and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets exactly, yeah. She gets convinced to go to a screening of this film. And while at the film, a fire breaks out. And her and her friends, in an effort to escape, end up entering the movie.
Ooh.
Yeah. And
so this gets like meta.
Super meta. And it's awesome. And like the characters are all there and like are totally stuck in their one dimension, which was awesome to see.
Playing like off of stereotypes.
Exactly. Yeah. And
movie tropes.
But it's surprisingly sweet, because her mom is in it. But it's her mom's character, not actually her mom.
Mm.
But it's got some emotional heft to it. I enjoyed it. I also watched.
What is that called again?
Final Girls.
Final Girls.
Yeah,
all right.
Highly recommend it. I thought it was a great time. I also watched Friday the 13th, Part 2 and 3.
Oh, I love those movies.
2 was great. 3 was kind of a snoozer for me.
It's just more of the second. What's not to love? Whatever.
It's basically a remake of the second, but like with worse acting. 2 surprisingly had some decent writing and acting. I love that the final girl in that one was like a child psychologist, and she knew how to work Jason at the end when she finds that shrine.
The altar?
Yeah.
That's one of the most horrific images in horror movies to me.
With Jason's decapitated mom.
Yes.
Her head, like on a table with her sweater.
Beautiful.
I remember...
Back in Spoiler City, guys.
Yeah. I remember when we used to go to Blockbuster all the time. I remember looking at the back of covers for slasher films. And I remember looking at the back of Friday the 13th Part 2. And one of the pictures on the back was the decapitated head shrine.
So it spoiled it right on the back.
Totally, yeah. They didn't give a shit. They're just like, this is the coolest image. Great movie. I like the second one a lot. Third one is a shit show.
I like it.
And they made it to be 3D. And it's really funny, all the like...
The third one?
Yeah, you didn't know that?
No, that makes more sense.
Yeah,
that's great.
All the deliberate like knives at the screen and like things going towards the screen. It's so tacky.
Speaking of histories and box art, let's get into some horror movie histories.
Oh, totally.
One that I'd like to talk about, which jumps off something you mentioned last time, is dads and old monster movies. Is my father got me into, or he was a fan of old Universal monster movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to go to the library and check out books that were summaries of these movies and look at the pictures and read them. Some of the first things I read. Oh, how sweet. I remember my favorites were Creature from the Black Lagoon and The Attack of the Praying Mantis.
Oh, nice.
And then also was seeing a book at my elementary school that had images from John Carpenter's The Thing, which horrified me and gave me awful nightmares of the alien as, different morphed body parts of people and spider legs. Oh, gosh.
That's hilarious that they would have that in a elementary school library.
Totally inappropriate. Gave me nightmares for a decade.
But awesome. Totally awesome. I wanted to mention sleepovers and how important those are and just swallowing down whole franchises at a time. My cousins and I, it was me and my little sister and then my cousins, and they had a little brother, Ross, he was kind of a shit at the time. I love him now, but he would always like rat on us for sneaking into movies and stuff.
Oh, what a square.
I know, but he would hang out with us. He loved them. He was even younger than us, which is disturbing because we were like 8 or 9, so he was like 6. But yeah, we would.
Super scared.
One of our parents would drive us to Blockbuster, and we would just load up on either all of the Nightmare on Elm Streets, Friday the 13th, Hellraiser.
They let you get those?
Yeah, they didn't give a shit. It was
Lucky.
awesome.
Lucky.
I know.
At least not my parents. I had to use my friend's parents.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Well, actually, my family was like the dredge of the neighborhood. I lived in a neighborhood with a bunch of kids, and we would like play a lot. And they all came over for a sleepover once, and we watched Scream.
Yes, such a sleepover movie
yeah,
for me, too.
Totally, yeah. And after that, one of them told their parents, and then all the parents freaked out that we watched this movie. Like, we were 9 years old. And
my cousin got in trouble for showing me and my brother Scream. We had to sneak the sequels every year when they would come out and watch it after the parents fell asleep. It's like, all right, parents are asleep, time for R-rated Scream.
Man, it was so easy for me. I would just be like, Mom, I'm going to the video store. Bye.
Lucky we had to be like, all right, we know which button to press if we hear them, so it looks like we're watching like MTV.
Oh, nice. But anyways, we watched Scream at the sleepover, and then the parents found out, and none of the kids in my neighborhood were allowed to go in my house ever again.
Ever again?
Ever again. They were forbidden from going in my house, the house where horror lives.
Justin from the House of Horror.
Yeah. So that's a little chunk of our horror history. And now we want to talk about the film we watched this week, which is the John Carpenter classic, 1978's Halloween.
So this is your favorite horror movie?
This is my all-time favorite horror movie. I think it just hits you in so many different levels. Let me run through the plot really quick.
Please, yes. I've only seen it once and would not be able to do it for you. This is my second time viewing it.
Yeah, well, it's
Run it by me.
It's a very simple movie. First of all, I absolutely love movies that predominantly take place in one night or one day, especially if it's just like one place or very few settings. I think that's makes for far more interesting cinema. When
adds to claustrophobia too.
Definitely, yeah. The opening scene is basically Michael Myers as a boy killing his older sister. And then we cut forward to 15 years later. He's 21 years old, and he escapes from this insane asylum, steals a car, and drives to Haddonfield for no other reason that we know of than to just wreak havoc on Haddonfield. And we'll go into that later, why we think he kills. And then the rest of the movie follows Laurie Strode, who is a 17-year-old girl. She's very bookish, very smart, and she's kind of quiet and good-natured, and she's one of only characters who sense the danger that is coming, which is interesting. But anyways, it follows her, and she's babysitting on Halloween night, which she's clearly unhappy about, that she doesn't have much of a fun social teenager life. And while she's babysitting, her friends are systematically stalked and killed by Michael Myers. She eventually finds it out. They have a showdown. She gives him a run for his money, for sure. And it's just a great time, a wonderful time. The wonderful Donald Pleasance plays Sam Loomis, who is...
Dr. Sam Loomis.
Dr. Sam Lewis, who is Michael Myers' psychiatrist. He's known Michael since he was first admitted into the asylum, and he's got that quote. You may be able to quote it better. I think you wrote down a bunch of the quotes, but...
What is it? Yes, he spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then 7 years trying to keep him locked up.
Yes.
He has the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes.
The devil's eyes. Oh, man, it's awesome. His speeches are just incredible. I guess John Carpenter co-wrote the script with his then girlfriend, Deborah Hill, who also produced the film. And he had her write all the female dialogue.
Oh, nice.
While he focused more on Sam Loomis's speeches.
Nice.
Which is awesome to have two different voices in it, because it's really... their dialogue does feel authentic. It feels like teenage girls.
Authentic.
They're talking about, teenage girls stuff like boys and the dances coming up, and, they give each other a hard time in a very authentic way. And then Sam Loomis is this very, character-esque, these profound monologues. Like, nobody talks
morbid
like that.
And prophetic.
Yeah. He's got like such insights about evil and Michael Myers and what he represents. It's cool to see those shifts in characters, something that would be hard to see if just one person wrote the script.
So how did they all come together at the final conclusion of the movie after she has her run with him?
Right. Well, Sam Loomis, he's in Haddonfield because he knows that Michael Myers wants to go back, and he's surveying the land, trying to find where he is, and he eventually sees these kids that Laurie was babysitting. She tells him, like, I need you to go down to the, I forget the name, like the Studemakers' house, and have them call the police. Like, go now. So they run out of the house screaming.
The McKinley's house.
Yeah. They run out of the house screaming.
Mackenzie.
Dr. Sam Loomis sees the kids, goes, oh, shit. Kids are running from a house. Michael Myers is definitely in there.
This is my chance. I've been waiting in the bushes all night.
Yeah. He was waiting outside the Myers house all night, waiting for Michael to come.
Scaring kids.
Yes, trying to scare kids away. But he eventually shoots Michael Myers 5 times. He falls off of the balcony, and in the final moments, when Laurie was like, is that the boogeyman? And Donald Pleasance goes, as a matter of fact, it is. And then he goes to check on Michael's body, and of course, Michael is no longer there. And we have... Yes, and then it cuts to the breathing, and we have all these beautiful shots of all the key scenes in the movie, and you really just get this feeling of this pervading, all-pervasive evil that kind of surrounds the whole place, and it makes Michael Myers less of a human and more of just this embodiment of evil. Yeah, the shape.
The shape lives.
Yes. And
you can't kill the boogeyman.
And I love the breathing in this movie. That's something that they did not do for the rest of the franchise. They never did that again.
Oh, whoa, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And it's so effective.
It's so signature, especially, it's like the signature sound of the movie, just kind of how like,
yeah.
It's to Friday the 13th.
Yeah, well, it totally links you up to his emotional state.
Inside the mask.
Yes, because he's usually like watching girls undress, watching people have sex, or just stalking Laurie Strode and just like breathing heavily. So another thing I want to talk about is how Michael Myers and Laurie Strode, they almost have this, it's almost like a tragic love story.
Total romance.
Yeah, well, Michael sees Laurie in the beginning when she drops off keys at
his mother's house.
Yeah,
his childhood home.
His childhood home, and he's there and he sees her, and I'm led to believe that that's why, he sees her, he could very well falls, and he takes a fancy to her, that's for sure.
He brought the keys to my house.
Yeah.
Thanks. She brought the keys to my house.
Yeah, I could use those. But anyways, from that point on, he follows her around and follows her friends and
stalks her at school.
Yes.
Stalks her on her way home from school.
And it's
even when she's walking with her friends. Mm-hmm. And they're talking about, she suddenly forgets her chemistry. She was like, oh, I forgot my chemistry book.
Yes. Yeah, so they're talking about fate, and he's there, and then another scene she's talking about chemistry, and he's there. And it's interesting, too.
The little game they play of looking at each other from far away.
Oh, totally. And it's interesting, too, if you think about... It's interesting, too, if you think about Laurie Strode, how she is kind of aching for some male affection. And then here's Michael, like, literally stalking her, and she sees him. And there's this, you can kind of sense this part of her that's a little almost intrigued by it. Like, she is, like, somebody's taking fancy her, She knows it's not good, but it just plays up to her.
Is this my imagination or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's just let it go.
And it plays up to her, the sexual repression in her character. And it's interesting that...
And he is, too, in how childlike he is.
Oh, totally. And that's
just a boy.
And that's interesting, too, is the idea that, like, Dr. Sam Loomis is like, he's evil. He's pure evil. When... I mean, really, I take it away that he's a stunted child who doesn't know that murder is bad. He loves Halloween, he loves scaring people, and he loves killing people.
He finds a costume and a mask.
Yeah.
And a prop.
Right. It's like, and that was the thing I wrote down. It's like, why does he wear a mask? And it's like, well, duh, he's he loves Halloween. He loves being a kid. This to him is what being a kid is murdering people.
He's just playing with them.
Yeah, so it's interesting, like our perception of what's evil and what is just, stunted in development, or what is just, people who can't feel compassion at all.
When he stabs the one guy and into the wall, he like stares at him afterwards, like he's unsure of what he did almost.
Yeah, he's really studying it, like almost like he's like, what are you doing? Like it's this game he's playing with these people that he's stalking, and then like he scares them, and then he kills them, and in the scene you almost assume he's like, what are you doing? Like, come on, let's keep playing. Like he does it
like a cat with a mouse being like, come on, what are you you're not playing back with me anymore? What am I doing?
He has no understanding of death.
Time for the next one.
Yeah, I guess I gotta find someone else to play with now.
And now back to The Devil Dines In.
Howdy. You okay, son?
Look, just give me your money. I don't want to make this ugly.
Hey, excuse me?
Just do it.
Oh, Lord. Okay. Here, this is all I have.
Come on, man. Don't make this hard. Under the drawer. Come on.
Oh, my. Okay, here.
Good.
What are you doing?
Nothing. Are there any hospitals around here?
Oh boy, you're good ways from any of that. 3 hours at least.
3 hours. I can wait 3 hours.
You hurt or something?
No, just shut the fuck up. I'm gonna get out of here, but I don't want to hear a sound from you, okay? I got a friend outside who makes a sport out of ripping jaws off people's faces.
Oh, of course, I'll be fine.
You better be.
You son of a bitch!
I wish you hadn't done that.
And this concludes part 2 of The Devil Dines In.
Hello, and welcome back to Tuesdays with Gory.
Heidi-ho.
We're here talking about John Carpenter's 1978 Halloween.
Yes, we are. And Joe, you know what time it is?
It's time for the death toll.
Bring out your dead! All right. So this movie is pretty sparse in terms of deaths as far as slasher films are concerned.
Indeed.
But let's go through the list, the short list.
Yes, hit me.
I'm going to hit you. Coming in at number 1 is Michael Myers' older sister, Judith Myers, who had just taken part in coitus with a man who abruptly left, and then she's naked, combing her hair, and Michael stabs her to death as a 6-year-old boy. All right, coming in at number 2, we have a mechanic who we don't see getting killed, but this is where Michael gets his jumpsuit.
Off-camera kill.
That's right. Coming in at number 3 is a dog.
Oh.
Yeah, when Michael is stalking Annie, who was babysitting, the dog was outside giving him a hard time, so he decided to. We don't see it really. We just see his legs going limp.
Strangulation of dog?
We assume he either strangled or crushed his skull, did something to quiet the dog. Coming in at number 4 is Annie. Annie gets choked in her car, and then Michael Myers slices her throat. Coming in at number 5 is Bob, the shortest lived character in the movie. Bob goes down to get a beer. Michael Myers takes him by the neck and chokes him a while, lifts him up, and then stabs him through his stomach, mounting him to the wall. That was a wonderful death.
And stares at him like a predator.
And then next, coming in at number 6, the last kill of the movie is Linda. Michael Myers has a sheet over him. He's dressed as a ghost. He eventually
chokes
Linda to death with a phone cord, which Lori had just called her. Hears all of this, and
Is this a prank?
Yes, and this allows Lori, it gives her the impetus to check out the house, having her finally become face-to-face with Michael Myers. And that, my friends, is the death toll.
Woo! Thanks, Justin.
Oh, you're welcome.
Well, there weren't actually many gross outs in this movie.
There were none.
I don't know what to do with my my intended segment.
We might have to scratch that.
So instead, I'm going to sacrifice my segment
Mm-hmm.
to talk about Spoiler City and how this movie, which I'd only seen once before and wasn't that happy with, I really didn't like it last time because the movie I felt was ruined for me.
Right.
We're going to talk about spoilers in movies. This movie was already told to me before I had ever seen it. Like as a myth, when kids tell campfire stories, I had been told about Mike Myers and how he had killed his sister and came back to get his sister. But none of this stuff is actually in the first movie.
No.
This is added in plot.
Yes.
And so when I had first seen this movie, I like half paid attention and like already knew all the backstory and didn't appreciate it at all for what I have seen it now, like looking at it, looking at it closely.
Yes. Well, interesting trivia. When John Carpenter made Halloween, he never, ever intended there to ever be a sequel. It was going to stand as its own. Michael Myers was going to remain this completely mysterious figure. And to me, and I think most movie audiences, the mystery there is the most terrifying part of, like, why is he killing? The mere fact that something could be driven to kill like that without any clear motive is scary, and it's terrifying, and we'll get into that in the themes soon. And anyways, the first one did so unexpectedly well, that obviously they were going to make more just to make money. And they told John Carpenter, they're like, hey, we're going to make a sequel. Will you direct it? And he was like, absolutely no way. Like, I want to, And then they were like, well, will you at least write the screenplay? And he was like, no. And they're like, we will give you this much money. And he was like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. I can go on and like make the next movie I want to make.
Smart.
So he took the job, and I was watching this documentary where he talks about when he was writing the script, he would just drink a 6-pack of beer every night, just hunch over the typewriter going, how the hell am I going to make this movie go any further? So he had to throw in the backstory with Michael Myers as Laurie Strode's sister, brother, and that's why he's out to get her. And yeah, it's all so unnecessary, and that's why, to me, the first one is just such a disparate entity from the rest of the films, even H2O, because that one still sticks.
That was the first one that I saw.
Oh, man, that would just ruin the series for you.
So silly. And then I saw the second one, and I'm just like, why do people even like this?
Yes. So I understand. When I watch Halloween, I do not even think about any of the lore that was introduced into the sequels. I just take it at face value, which is way more scary, way more enjoyable.
It's interesting how sometimes a spoiler can either still make you like a movie or make you dislike a movie.
Yeah.
And originally it had me so dislike it.
Mm-hmm.
So I had already seen, when I saw the movie, it was ruined for me.
Yes.
So what have you taken on this movie from being able to have a raw impression of it throughout your life?
Yes.
If you want to get into some themes,
well,
please.
It sounds like we are segueing into the themes segment of our show. Anyways, so the first major theme I gathered from revisiting this movie in my adulthood, I should mention, I first saw this movie when I was 8 years old. I absolutely loved it.
Lucky.
I loved it my whole life. And revisiting it, it's such a joy to realize that there is so much to this movie that I loved at such an early age that I didn't pick up on. First of all, the biggest theme that I pick up from it is that of sexual repression.
Mm-hmm.
I believe
Laurie is so sexually repressed.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Laurie is a teenage girl who's not getting any, who obviously...
Jamie Lee Curtis in her debut breakout role.
Yeah, this is her first role. She did a wonderful job. Obviously, she's an amazing actress. And her character, Laurie Strode, you assume that she's trying to live up to this ideal of... She even says at some point to herself, like, Oh, the old Girl Scout comes through again. She's helping her friend out so her friend can get laid.
Well, she's babysitting the
kids. Exactly. So she's like this good girl. She's living up to this image, really good in school, but awkward around guys and doesn't know how to let loose and have fun. And because of that, she has a lot of sexual repression. And
her friend even has to set her up with a guy and be like, oh, yeah, she likes you. And she's like, why did you say that?
And she was horrified by that. Yeah. And it was that scene in the car when Laurie and Annie are talking about boys. I thought it was really sweet, and it really shows this like really vulnerable side to Laurie Strode, and you can tell that that's something that it's a touchy subject for her. You can tell it's something that she really wants, but she feels ill-equipped. She says at some point, boys think I'm too smart, so already she believes that the person that she is, she has interest in academics and she's highly intellectual, and she already believes that this is the reason why she can't enjoy her youth or enjoy these urges she has. So anyways, she's sexually repressed, and it's interesting. When this movie came out, a lot of people were accusing John Carpenter of having this morality play here, where he was saying that all the characters that drink or have sex or, are foul-mouthed or whatever, they get murdered.
Oh, totally. But that's also a staple of most slasher films.
Right. But up to this point, not really. This was this kind of set the mold for the slasher film.
Interesting.
Yeah, and John Carpenter was quoted in an interview. He was basically saying like that's baloney. Like I don't think that at all. All I was saying is that Laurie Strode was the only one who was not preoccupied with sex and drinking, whatever, and because of that, she had her wits to her.
She was more mature.
Right. She was able to. So if anything, it's a testament to the distraction that sex is. It doesn't say that sex is bad, but it's definitely something that, especially, we all know what it's like to be teenagers, which is another theme. I'll get into that later. But anyway, sexual repression. So Laurie Strode is sexually repressed, and it's interesting because she is the only one who penetrates Michael. Actually, she pokes him with
the only one who hurts him.
She pokes him with a sewing needle. She stabs him in the eye with a hanger, and stabs him with his own knife. And if you look at those, they're all kind of phallic symbols.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's an intro. And now let's flip it onto Michael Myers.
Who
is like the ultimate figure of like male sexual repression. Just that breath. The fact that he stalks these women
behind a mask.
Yes. The mask just kind of keeps his distance from him and them.
Wearing like a worker uniform of just like a jumpsuit one piece.
Yeah, the type of like occupation that you would imagine that like a lot of men who hold such jobs are the type that would like catcall women or be like thoroughly aggressive with their sexuality. Which Michael Myers, in my understanding of his character, and it's all left open to debate in the movie, but my understanding of his character is that from a young age, he had these sexual feelings, and I believe he had them for his sister.
Oh, yes, because he's staring at his sister at the beginning of the movie. Also through a mask. He doesn't look at her until through a mask. Yes.
So him murdering is almost an expression of this sexual impulse he has, and it speaks to how, and I'm sure you experienced this growing up, how sex is not talked about at all in our culture.
He doesn't talk.
Yeah. In terms of like, having a healthy dialogue, like letting kids, especially letting teenagers know that like sex is a natural part of life, that you just have to be responsible with it. Those conversations never happen. So I feel like this movie is a testament to that Michael Myers has these feelings. Sex is taboo. You don't talk about it. So what's he going to do with it? And it manifests in this like, well, I'm just going to murder, because that's how I'm going to penetrate these women. Yeah, so that's...
but he also doesn't just penetrate. He strangles people most of the time.
He likes to strangle. He's a strangler. Yeah. And that's, that's another part. We'll jump into that theme, actually, too, is just this idea of evil.
He doesn't directly kill people. He plays like a game with them beforehand.
He loves, it's this childlike thing for him. And
what kind of impulses does he have?
Well, Dr. Sam Loomis talks about how, he's even as a boy, he was a boy with no conscience, no understanding of right and wrong, which is interesting to me to define evil that way. So it's not like he knows he's doing wrong. It's just that he wants to kill. He's overcome with this urge to kill, and he doesn't just want to kill. He wants to make people afraid, and he wants to scare them, and he wants to toy with them. And he only does it on Halloween, where they say, like this idea of like Samhain, and Halloween is this night where all evil comes out to play.
Is that in this movie, or is that added in the second one?
They add that later.
Yeah, that's added in the second one. Let's try to keep this thematically within the own one if we're going to talk about it.
No. I'm not. They don't directly say that, but that's. I mean, in interviews with Deborah Hill and John Carpenter, they said when they were making this, they were trying to think of Halloween and this idea of how Halloween is the night that evil comes out to play.
Oh, okay.
So that was like
it is like not just kind of haphazardly added to the script.
Oh,
of the second one.
No. It's just like we're covering thematically Michael Myers, and you really get that sense at the very end because this is the first time when he gets shot 5 times. Obviously, he's got like poked in the neck, he got poked in the eye, he got stabbed once. He's a big guy. We can understand how he survived that. Mm-hmm. But he gets shot 5 times, then he falls off a balcony, like lands on the ground, and then he disappears. He gets up and walks away, which we don't see happen. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time that we realize that Michael Myers is not just a super resilient man, that there is something supernatural to him.
He's not a man.
Yeah, he's no man. What kind of man could do this?
He's no man.
So anyways,
he's the boogeyman, which is another thing they repeatedly refer to him as.
Yes,
the little boy does.
Yes. Well, that's a great segue into the next theme, which is the idea of superstition versus knowledge. Like you said, there's several mentions of the boogeyman, which is something that only...
What's the boogeyman?
Yes, which is something that only kids really obsess over. It's a childish thing. For an adult, even a 17-year-old, to believe in the boogeyman, that's seen as highly childish, and that's what's so significant, and why at the end, when Laurie Strode is like, was that the boogeyman? And then Dr. Sam Loomis goes, as a matter of fact, it was. And then Michael Myers gets up, he's disappeared, and then we see Laurie Strode crying, and those tears are her realizing that this thing she was trying to write off is like, because she had this gut feeling even in the beginning when she first sees Michael.
They keep having this dance of seeing each other and staring at each other from far away.
Yes, and she...
I think like 3 or 5 times before they, like, in the beginning of the movie. It's really ridiculous.
Yeah, and well, it speaks to how she has good reason to believe that something's not right, but she's telling herself, Laurie...
And the kids.
Yeah. She's telling herself, Laurie, you're a grown woman. You're just like, it's Halloween. You're in your head. You're freaking yourself out. But at the end, she learns that like her deepest fears were true. And she was trying to comfort herself the whole movie, but realizing that, your deepest superstition actually holds weight in reality is one of the most terrifying things a human can experience. And then obviously there's also the theme of suburbia, which is a big thing in slasher movies, about suburbia being this kind of, a lot of these slasher movies take place in suburbs that are predominantly white. These people flee from the city to live in gated communities because they want to feel safe. They want to feel protected from, the debauchery of the city, and that's what makes this so terrifying, is that somebody invades this safety bubble that they build for themselves.
The sheriff keeps trying to tell Dr. Loomis that the city's fine. There's families here. We have nothing to worry about. And he's like, no, evil has come to your town.
Yes.
He doesn't want to believe that his perfect suburbia has been penetrated by evil. This unspeakable evil that is unstoppable, or you have to be prepared.
Yes. And then my last theme I want to talk about is obviously just death itself. Michael Myers obviously represents death, the way death stalks, the way that in any waking moment, a human being on a primordial level and a psychological level knows that they can die, and how that is just like an underlying dread, sometimes more prevalent in some people, but especially for teenagers who really have no grasp on life, but they have a natural inclination to know that death is real. There's even a scene when they're in the car, they're saying, "Don't fear the Reaper."
And the song's playing.
Yeah. And then Laurie's in class.
Don't fear the Reaper.
Laurie's in class, and they're talking about fate, about how, like, fate is an unmovable mountain. So it's like death has finally caught up with the people in this movie. And
it's the first time that her and Mike Myers exchange eye contact, too.
That's right, yeah.
At the school while they're talking about fate.
Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of great horror movies exemplify that, our fear of our own mortality and the fact that death is stalking us,
inescapable,
breathing heavily through a mask. So those... man, I could talk for 3 more hours about this film, but those are the biggest themes I take away from it.
It really transcends the slasher genre by adding a lot more to it than your typical slasher films that try to imitate it afterwards and do it incorrectly.
Yes.
Rather through more gore or more blood. Like, this movie doesn't have much blood. I kept wanting to be like, oh, show me. But it's like, no, you don't see it. You just see, like, the knife and maybe get blood on the knife, but there's no, like, ketchup on the walls or like like bursting blood. It's the complete opposite of the last movie that we watched.
Well, like, one thing that makes this movie so terrifying is that the pace is very slow and it's not gratuitous, and we've got these long shots.
They can't teleport? Mike Myers can't teleport?
Yeah. We have these long shots of the girls walking or Michael Myers watching somebody, and it really takes its time. And what this creates is it creates this pace that is very similar to real life, which makes it much scarier. It makes it feel like I'm not just watching a movie. I'm actually watching people live and eventually get killed. Like, it's really
engaging.
Yeah, it feels...
sense of time is real.
Yes, it feels like, oh, this is actually what, a man who's more of an animal who loves to stalk his prey and then kill them, like, this is what this would actually look like. So anyways, 4 out of 4 stars from me. My favorite horror movie of all time, Halloween. John Carpenter, you're God.
You really made me enjoy this movie. I really liked it this time around.
Good. I'm so glad to hear.
Added to my list of favorite slasher films.
Awesome. Well, should we talk about what we're going to watch next week?
Well, we've covered a zombie movie.
That's right, City of the Living Dead.
We've covered a slasher movie.
Halloween.
And next we are going to do a werewolf movie.
The Howling.
Yes, this is Joe Dante's 1981, The Howling. Mm-hmm.
And this is our first audience recommendation, isn't it?
Yes, we are going to be here with a friend of mine named Shay Cahill.
That's right.
Who will be... She loved this movie, and she will be running us through it and how much she loves it and why.
And I will be meeting her and this movie for the first time.
I haven't seen it either. This is all new to us. Is it new to you, listeners?
Let us know. Oh, also, you guys know the Mercast number. Joe, what's that real quick?
Oh, gosh. Wait, I don't have it on me.
Oh, well, we'll punch it in. If you guys have any comments or... any critiques or anything to do with any horror movie, particularly the ones that we talked about or will watch, feel free to call the Mercast hotline, leave a message, and we will try to fit it into the episode. And I think that's it for this week's installment of Tuesdays with Gory.
Until next time, we're right behind you.
And now, for the thrilling conclusion of The Devil Dines In.
There! Now don't you feel better?
I hate it when they scream like that.
Oh, I hate when they scream like that. When are you just going to accept what you are? You need to eat, and they are here for us to eat.
It's just so barbaric. It's not necessary anymore. We don't have to kill to live these days.
Those blood bags you lift from hospitals, it's just not the same. You need your blood straight from the flesh, and you know it.
It's just not right.
Shit.
What?
It's him.
What should we do?
Just stay put. We'll have to stall him.
Hello, boys.
Just let us be free, man.
I'm afraid I can't do that. You see, You boys belong to me, and I get very distraught when my belongings desert me.
That's bullshit. Come on, man. You've got so many people working for you, and they're happy to do so. We want out. Why is that so bad?
You're not ready, son. You'll never survive in this world on your own.
We were doing just fine.
For the love of God, kid. Your faces are all over every news publication throughout the state. You dismembered a police officer, ravaged a family, stole more cars than you would ever need to, and managed to let yourself get filmed by every asshole with a phone across this state. Tracking you down was no trouble at all. You have no tact, kid. You're on a path leading nowhere. You should be happy to see me. Now you're coming with me, whether or not I have to force you.
No, we're not.
Let go of me, kid.
Dude, sit down. He'll rip you in half.
I'm sick of this. The running, the fear, the struggling. You have no right. You don't own us. I'd rather die than go back with you.
Is that so?
Dude, what are you doing, man?
I never asked to be like this. I never asked to live this way. This is all his fault.
You should all be grateful. All I've given you.
Oh, thank God. Joe, it's time.
With you out here like this? Charlie, let me ask you something. Who's watching the rest of the family?
They would never leave me like you have. They would never betray me in such a way.
I wouldn't be so sure.
What?
You think this was our entire plan? Just the two of us to run off like this?
My children. You couldn't. You wouldn't.
You're so easy to lure out here, away from your friends and your lackeys. It wasn't easy, undoing all the abuse and mind games you had them imprisoned under.
But when we offered them more than you ever could, when we promised them freedom and all the food they could ever need,
I was good to you. You had no one, and I took you in.
You were a tyrant. We were your slaves.
I loved you. You were my children.
We are nobody's children.
Tuesdays with Gory has been a presentation of Moss Tapes. For more information, please visit www.mosstapes.com.